Welcome to Sikhcast, brought to you by Sikh Research Institute, illuminating every path.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. My name is Sukhman Kaur and I am the Associate Editor on the Granth project. We are excited to announce the release of Bhagat Sain Ji's Bani, set in Rag Dhanasari, a musical mode of contentment and cheerfulness that conveys a sense of fulfillment upon realizing IkOankar within oneself. Bhagat Sain Ji is one of 15 Bhagat composers whose compositions are included in the Guru Granth Sahib. This is his only one. But like many of the Bhagat contributors to the Guru Granth Sahib, there are many debates and uncertainties around his life, which are explored in great detail on the Historical Dimensions page on our website. But in addition to the fact of his connection with IkOankar, the other important fact to acknowledge is Bhagat Sain Ji's caste background. In English, we would translate it as the oppressed barber caste, but in Punjabi, it's called Nai, depending on the regional pronunciation, which has much more depth and gravity and cultural legibility in a way that barber in English fully does not. And this caste is associated with many more intimate types of labor, including but certainly not limited to hair cutting or hair grooming, or what we would call nowadays hygiene care, or even brokering marriage alliances. And that is the interesting thing about Bhagat Sain Ji's positionality in society. It's that he is at once incredibly close, like physically or bodily close, with the centers of power. He is in service of the king in all of the narratives that we could find on him. So he's close to the kind of physical embodiment of power very directly. He's literally grooming his hair, this sign of royalty and lineage and caste. But simultaneously, because of his own caste background, Nai, he becomes incredibly far removed from, excluded from the religious centers of power and rituals, especially, because he's not allowed to participate in them because of his caste. And it's this perspective, this almost skepticism about the kind of grandeur of the rituals and how they are carried out in the courts and in the kingdoms that we can see reflected in this composition. It's this exclusion from religious spaces, which were many the centers of power, really, when you contextualize the caste system, that Bhagat Sain Ji responds to, rebukes, really, and offers his Arti. And we can imagine Bhagat Sain Ji watching an Arti from afar, observing the grand displays of material wealth and material power, and wondering, what is it all for? What is the true Arti? I wanted to dwell on the Rahau line, since that is where we find the main idea of the composition. Mangala har Mangala, Nit Mangala Raja Ram Rai Ko Rahau. And our team transcribes this as your joyful song, O Hari, the remover of suffering, your joyful song. I sing the joyful song of you, King Ram, the emperor, the all-pervading sovereign, daily. Now, in this line, we find two synonyms for IkOankar. The first one is Hari, which we can kind of understand as highlighting the attributes of removing suffering, dispelling fear, this kind of all-pervasive nature of IkOankar. And then the second one being Raja Ram Rai, so King Ram, the emperor, which highlights the qualities of justice and sovereignty and royalty. So in utter adoration, Bhagat Sain Ji resounds with this song of happiness, Mangala, and is filled with the ecstasy emanating from the joy of connection with IkOankar. He experiences an irrevocable surrender, which invites emotions of happiness that are beyond explanation and quantification. In that state, he gives us a paradigm-shifting idea that disrupts and sheds the veils of social constructs, nudging us to ask ourselves, what is our true Arti? Etymologically, we know that the word Arti means that which dispels darkness. So it's worth pausing when Bhagat Sain Ji calls us in and questions, are any of the Artis that we participate in or that we engage in really dispelling our inner darkness? without asking ourselves what even can dispel this darkness from within us and remove the negativities of our mind, we might find ourselves overindulging in elaborate or external rituals to soothe ourselves and feel control over life. Are any of those artis dispelling our ignorance, our hate, our jealousy, our fear, or our attachment that we might feel to temporary or transient things or to relationships? Whatever it might be that hinders us from cultivating a personal and intimate relationship with IkOankar, like Bhagat Sain Ji did. I also wanted to touch upon this particular word that I was thinking about when I was reflecting on this composition, and it appears in the first line, and that's the word dhoop, meaning incense. Popularly, Arti calls for ingredients like candles, incense, bells, lamps, and oil. But in Bhagat Sain Ji's reformative example, by viewing true devotion as the only necessary ingredient, the only real essential ingredient that we need to celebrate the One, I feel inspired to reflect on the intention behind my own attitudes, my own beliefs, my own rituals, and my own dogmas. Bhagat Sain Ji changes the narrative by inspiring all of us to adorn these elements, these ingredients within each of us. He models for us that through earnestly offering the self, in this case offering himself to IkOankar, what adornment can look like. Each and every single one of us houses these ingredients for this connection within. No longer, he asserts, do we have to literally physically be within these social centers of religious power to feel connection with the One. We can do that within ourselves. Each and every single one of us can find connection with IkOankar, and it's that connection that can dispel the darkness from within. And it's through this transcendent Arti for the transcendent One, for IkOankar. And we learn that our humble devotion is both the incense, it is the wick, it is also the lamp when we praise IkOankar. Bhagat Sain Ji's social context tells us that he was prohibited from accessing many religious and social spaces. His observation of these rituals from afar, from a distance, gave him the perspective through which he reimagined Arti for himself, but also for all of us. His experience with IkOankar, born from a personal and intimate connection, decentralizes the authority around religious power and religious connection for public benefit. We often measure our relationship with the One based on external practices. We might think that the more times we bow our heads in a place of worship or the more money we put in a donation box, the more pleased IkOankar will be with us. But Bhagat Sain Ji makes it very clear that the essence, devotion to the One, this humble devotion to the One, is missing. Then none of these external practices or these external rituals or these routines that we engage in can really help us find true connection with IkOankar. Love of the One is about feeling, living, and experiencing. And if we wish to experience connection, that kind of ultimate everlasting bliss, we might need to check ourselves and ask, what is our true Arti? Are the practices that we are engaging with genuine? Are they trying to connect us to IkOankar? Are these practices dispelling the increasing inner negativities of our mind? Some of us might have not heard Bhagat Sain Ji's name until today, but it's very likely that we've heard his Bani because it's sung after Guru Nanak Sahib's Arti in, most notably, Darbar Sahib at Sri Harmandir Sahib. So I hope you spend some time with this composition, with the historical and the musical and the poetical dimensions, because there's much more information about Bhagat Sain Ji in this composition, Arti, that might surprise you and might shift how you listen and hear and understand and engage with this composition next time you hear it. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Read the translations and commentaries at gurugranthsahib.io.
You are listening to Sikhcast by Sikh Research Institute, illuminating every path.